Okay, so let's proceed with writing the middleware. But before we do that, let's create a error response if a permission is not allowed. So we might have a user who tries to do a read or write permission, but they don't have that privilege. So what do we return to that client? So let's just do that. So I will create a, let me just copy this. All right, so we have, okay, so user does not have the required permission. Okay, so in our case, read write. All right, so let's just call this not permitted response. Okay, and so what we will do is to have a message that says your account so your user account does not have the necessary permissions to access this resource. Okay, and we will have a status forbidden message as well. Okay, so status forbidden. Okay, so we're not using it yet. That's true. So let's save that. And let's close this. And let's go on to actually write the middleware. Okay. So again, currently we have required authenticated user. And then of course we have authenticate. Okay, and so one calls the other. So require authenticated user and require activated user. And if you recall, when we check for activation, we have to call on the authentication. Right? So what we're going to do, we're going to do the same thing whereby we will check for permission, and in turn we will actually check for activation. Okay, and of course we know that it will be a chain sort of reaction where one middleware will check for the other. Okay, so just keep that in mind that we will check for activation, which in turn will check for authentication. All right, so our middleware that will be checking for a specific permission. Okay, so let's just start. Let me just copy this and so that I can have something to start with. Let's remove all of this. Okay, so the name of this middleware will be called require permission. Okay, that's the name of our middleware. And again, we will accept the permission. So let's accept the permission. And we also want to accept the handler that we should have next, okay, which we know that by now. So HTTP dot handler func. Okay, and of course we will return a handler func. All right, great. So the first thing I want to do is to actually create the function that we will pass around. So I'm gonna have func, okay, and of course it's a handler. So we're gonna have w. We're gonna have HTTP dot response writer. Response writer. Okay, let's try this again. Okay. Okay, so let's grab all of this. Okay. All right. So what we will do, we will create our function. Okay. All right. We'll add this later. And then we'll simply go ahead and we will get our user. So let's get the user. Okay. Okay. So to get the user, I will simply say user, okay, is app dot context dot get user. Okay, and we will simply pass in R. Okay, and so we can extract the user. Okay, so once we have extracted the user, then we will actually get the permission slice for the user. So let's get the permission slice for the user. Okay, and we know how to do that. So we will simply say permissions, okay, and we'll just call our app dot models dot permissions dot get all for user, and of course we need to pass in the user's ID. That will give us the permissions or some error if there was a problem. So again, if there was an error, then something went wrong, and then we will simply say app.server error response w r and error. Okay, and let's just return. Okay, so we have that, and so once we have done that, okay, we will proceed to check for any check for the permissions. Okay, so let's come here, and so let's check for the permission. Okay, so this is the permission that we're checking for. Let's see if we can find this in our list of or a slice of permissions. So I will simply say if not permissions, we have a method, include. Okay, then we'll simply say app dot not permitted response W on R. Right, and then of course there's nothing else we can do or should do except to return. Okay, now once we have done that, then the next thing we need to do is to actually call the next handler. Okay, so after we do that, we'll simply say, okay, so let's be okay. And so now we'll simply say next dot serve HTTP with W and R. Okay, great. So we're almost done. And so the next thing we need to do is to actually return, and I'm going to return app that, and I'm going to call require activated user, and I'm going to pass in fn. So I will simply take this handler, which I will need to convert to a handler, and I'll pass it to require activated user middleware, which in turn will then pass it to require authenticated user. So again, we're just going to follow a chain. Okay, so I need to make sure I convert this to a handler func. So let me just go ahead and do that. So I will simply come here and I will say HTTP that handler func. Alright, and so where is my function? Well, I'm gonna create my function. I'm gonna close it, and let's just come down here and close it. Okay. Alright, so everything looks okay. Now it's telling me that I am not using it, and that's quite okay, because in the next video we will go back to our routes file and update our routes to be able to use this middleware. So I'll see you in that next video.